What do you think? Looks kind of vulnerable, huh? My brother-in-law gave me a wonderful book for Christmas. It's called Inflatable Planet. It's by a friend of his, Adi Somek, who is a balloon artist. A photo of the book's cover is on the screen now. Adi, the balloon artist, and a photographer friend of his, traveled the world on and off for 8 years, from 1996 to 2004, visiting 35 countries. They made balloon hats, shared them with the people they met along the way, and took photographs of them. The photos are amazing. Lots of joy, even if not everyone is smiling. Some people seem to be taking it very seriously. But you can't help but be drawn in by the photos. It's the interplay between the balloons and the people that animates every shot. I was tickled to find the first sentence when I opened the book. The power of a balloon comes from its vulnerability. There is only a thin layer of rubber between its life and death. Later in the book, Addie says, I've made balloon hats at corporate parties and homeless shelters, and all these different people react in very similar ways to receiving and wearing them. They become happy and relaxed. So, today we are talking about vulnerability. And you may know that you can't talk about vulnerability without referencing the work of Dr. Brené Brown, a social science researcher and storyteller. A TED Talk she gave in 2011 is the fourth most watched video on the TED program, with more than 60 million views. Since then, she has produced several best-selling books, a Netflix special, a popular podcast. She has made a sizable industry of exploring vulnerability. Obviously, she's hit a nerve. Her basic thesis is that vulnerability is the key to courage and to leading a meaningful life. She came to these findings through trying to understand the dynamics of connection, looking at relationships that bring meaning to people's lives. She was hoping to find the secret code that would help people get beyond feeling isolated and stuck. She noticed among people who seemed to be most successful in relationships and in their lives, people she labeled as living wholeheartedly, that three characteristics emerged. Those people had, one, the courage to be who they were and accepted their own imperfections and limitations. They had the compassion to be kind to themselves and in return to be kind to others. And lastly, they had many connections to others as a result of their willingness to share themselves authentically, to allow themselves to be seen for who they truly were. And the key to all of this was a willingness to be vulnerable, she found, to take the risk of saying and doing things that felt uncomfortable, to expose oneself and to do it without assurance of success. And the corollary, she argues, is that by resisting difficult, uncertain, or risky situations, we avoid the hard stuff, but we also miss out on the gold that can be found there. The connection, the creative possibilities, the joy that lives at the heart of allowing yourself to be seen. That is a pretty digested version of what Dr. Brown has to say, which is why I encourage you to check out her talk for yourself if you haven't already seen it. And I also want to note that a lot of other contemporary speakers or writers you might look to for inspiring words through TED Talks, podcasts, or books say similar things. Tara Brock, one of the meditation teachers Reverend Nika has been studying with for the last 2 years, talks about a process that she refers to by the acronym RAIN. Recognize, accept, inquire, and nurture. Which is to say that listening to one's own internal dialogue with an accepting and nurturing heart is the key to finding compassion for oneself and being able to bring that to one's relationships. Father Gregory Boyle, founder of Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles, the largest and most successful gang intervention program in the country, and also the author of several best-selling books, says it in a different way. For him, the term is radical kinship, manifesting love in a way that helps us see there is no us and them, it's just us. Thousands of gang members, sworn blood enemies of each other, have moved on from lives of violence and found meaningful and productive community through experienced profound compassion and unconditional acceptance that Father Greg has used as the central pillar of his work. Earlier this week, I woke up to a text from my daughter. From my daughter, Piper. It's okay, I do this. I'll make it through. Who goes by the pronouns they, them. I'm their father, so I may be a little biased in what I say here. But they are an amazing young person. An artist with their own business, sewing and repurposing clothes they get from the thrift store, a top student, and they are deeply involved in social justice work and committed to educating people about pesticide-free agricultural processes. In fact, the shirt that I'm wearing today was made by Piper. Yes, a shameless plug. And as you can see, I actually get to wear my heart on my sleeve. As a high school student, in the month of February of their senior year, they are in a naturally uncomfortable place, uncertain of so much at the moment. Having submitted applications to colleges and art schools, we all actually have a couple of anxious months ahead of us, waiting to hear back about what schools they've been admitted to for next year. Back to the text I woke up to the other day. My wife had sent Piper a text complimenting them on the shirts and other things that they had given us and the rest of the family for Christmas. Piper responded with, "Oh, thank you. It's so nice to get words of encouragement." I've quite honestly been feeling pretty down about my work lately. That gave me a pang of sadness as I started my day. And later in the morning, as I got to work on my reflections for this service, that sadness came back to sit more heavily on me, as I thought that Piper might let go of some of their dreams. I thought of how risky it can feel to stick a flag in the ground and declare oneself an artist. Talk about going into unknown territory and allowing oneself to be vulnerable. What had particularly shaken Piper up this week was that they had looked at the work by other students at some of the schools they have applied to. Wow. That's amazing stuff, and it seems way beyond what I'm capable of, Piper thought to himself. They found themselves surrounded by what ifs. What if I'm not accepted? What if I am, but I still can't cut it? What if I'm making a mistake? No wonder they didn't feel very good. And it made me think how much Piper's journey echoes my own when I was younger. I spent a long time trying to figure out what I was doing with my life. I had gone to a prestigious college on the East Coast, graduated with a weight of expectations on my shoulders, and felt very unclear for a long time. I wandered in a variety of directions, chasing things that after a while would feel like the wrong foot and not a place for me to thrive. For a few years, I stepped into a more creative direction, studying woodwork and decorative painting and a variety of other crafts. I had some success and enjoyed what I was doing. But I felt very unsure of where it would lead me. I knew I wanted to have a family, be able to afford a home and all that stuff. Continuing in a creative direction just felt too risky. When an opportunity to work in the film business randomly landed in front of me in Asheville, North Carolina, I jumped on it. That led to another film job, which eventually led to an opportunity to come to work in Hollywood. So I loaded my Subaru wagon and headed west. I worked in film for 10 years, during which time I met my wife, Robin, bought a house, we got married, we had 2 kids, Piper and their older sister, Ruby, who is with us by Zoom right now. Hi, Ruby. We managed to build a nice life as we bought more property, and my job evolved into managing the property as vacation rentals. In a lot of ways, it turned out just how I was hoping. Sticking with that opportunity in the film business was a good call. I turned 60 a few months ago. It wasn't nearly as traumatic of an experience as I feared it might be. It's actually been interesting to realize there are ways in which being 60 is easier than being 18 or 20 or 30. Being further along, I've gotten to the other side of a lot of those bulky unknowns and what ifs that weighed me down before. And now, after numerous renovation projects over the years, our properties are at a place where I can step back a bit. That brings a whole new range of questions to the fore. Do we want to do something different with any of the properties? Sell something? Buy something? Move in a different direction entirely? Questions that Robin and I have always batted around, but now have a bit more urgency. And if we choose any of those, what will I be doing? Not long after my milestone birthday this summer, Sam, a friend of ours who was a woodworker, told us that he was going to be making a move into a larger studio space with some other woodworkers. The move was risky as it meant a bigger financial commitment for him, but it also represents an exciting opportunity for him to grow the business. I gave him an enthusiastic congratulations and left it at that. But then a couple of weeks later, Robin said to me, "Hey, do you want to talk to Sam about how you might be able to get involved with what they're doing at that new space?" Wow. That question, that invitation was like a slow motion earthquake. Everything shifted in my mind. Creative possibilities, questions, conversations, ideas, dreams that had laid dormant since I came out to Hollywood came back to life. I don't know if Robin fully appreciates the impact that all had on me. It was just like the words we used for the chalice lighting earlier. For those whose tenderness helped us see that we no longer need to hide. Yes, I felt seen and feel seen by her. I have been given permission to take risks that I didn't allow myself to continue pursuing many years ago. I can't say I have a tidy ending to that part of the story yet. I'm still too busy managing our buildings to turn my attention to what I might do next. But we have made a plan for this to be a year of transition, letting go of short-term rentals so that I have time to open myself to the unknown, to be like Ferenzi the firefly in our children's story, to see what my own light can illuminate, to be vulnerable and see how it might be my superpower. I want to wrap up here, not with me, but with Piper. That's right, Pip. And you probably know what I'm going to say. It's not about what your fellow students are capable of. And not even what school you go to. It's about your light. May you let it shine in the way that only you can. So here, this is your balloon. It is vulnerable. That's what makes it so magical. May it be so, and amen.